Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. This is the Tonight Show podcast with me, Charlie Tolhurst, and of course my co-host Zach Chambers. Yes, a Wednesday evening. I am on leave, luckily, so I don't have. I am on leave from work, so I will. This is a very unusual night for me presenting. Of course, so I'm busy over the next few days. This is why we're on air this evening and tonight, of course. And yeah, lots to talk about, including I don't know why I don't know why I'm already laughing now. We got an interesting roundup from Britain's Got Talent final, including an interesting winner. I'm joined by late party supporter Zach Chambers to round up all those news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Right. Well, anyway, we'll come on to, of course, Britain's Got Talent in a little bit. We're going to start off though with the big news from Ukraine, and I want to mention this because obviously, if you've seen what's happened, pretty horrifying. There has been a huge dam in Kherson that has absolutely been destroyed. It's been literally bursted its floodgates open, and parts of Kherson have been heavily flooded over the last few days, last 24, 48 hours. There's been huge flooding in Kherson. A national emergency has been declared by the Ukrainian government and Ukrainian authorities. Honestly, I mean, there has been obviously Russia and Ukraine have accused each other. Ukraine have accused Russia of obviously a direct of this being like Ukraine have obviously accused Russia for it, saying that they caused it. Russia have blamed other things on it, and obviously there's still been missile attacks and shelling in parts of Kyiv today. Honestly, I mean, war is still here. I mean, goodness me, I was certainly exploring a lot of war today, as you would have seen on my social media post at Duxford today, looking around, seeing all the warplanes. But in the reality of war in Russia at the moment, the Second World War was 80 years ago. A war in Kiev and Ukraine is still here today. Zach, what did you make to the pretty horrifying events in Ukraine over the last few days regarding this damning Kherson?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a coincidence that this has started at the this happened at the looks like the very start of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, which has been planned, which they've all sort of been built up to. There's a ironic see of this that this has started to a few happened a couple of days ago, but just to start the counteroffensive. But yeah, I mean, this dam holds thousands and thousands of water, and you know this is the problem. This is the big problem that it holds lots of water. It's a big dam. It is a big river, and the thing about it is that if it's destroyed, it can cause a lot of flooding, and this is what we've just seen as well. An area that pretty much an area which is supposed to not flood has flooded. This dam is supposed to protect flooding, and the fact that this area has been attacked, then it just shows you the problems that they've got, really. And it's a recipe for disaster in many ways as well. We've just seen by the pictures. I mean, goodness me, Ukraine are blaming Russia, Russia blaming Ukraine. We don't know for certain who's actually caused this Kharkiv dam attack, which is beneath the Dnipro River on the edges of Kherson. But at the moment, the US intelligence is pointing towards Russia's sort of direction. I probably wouldn't be surprised if that was the case as well, given the fact, like I said, there's a counteroffensive about to happen, and Russia have got to find ways, from their perspective, to stop the Ukrainians from taking their land, from their territorial areas that they've claimed. So this is, I suspect, probably a last resort that they've used to sort of stop the Ukrainian advances in that area as well. And the results of that have been pretty devastating. We've seen flood in the area. Many people have had to evacuate their homes as well. Lots of hostilities. I mean, it is an awful situation in terms of humanity wise, but also environmentally wise as well. And I'm just watching the TV because West Ham just scored in the Europa Conference League final. Sorry to give that away whilst I'm watching it, but I'm just trying to watch what's going on. But yeah, it's a really serious situation in Ukraine as well, with what's happening at the dam. and everything as well. We don't know who's actually officially done it yet, but the direction they're pointing to Russia. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Russia as well. But the humiliation aid is going to need to be bigger than as well. And it's not just the people that are affected by this. Remember that that power plant in Zaporizhzhia as well. That has sort of been the nuclear energy plant that's sort of been shelled a little bit over the last 2 months. So that's also been affected potentially by the flooding as well. Now the good news is it appears to be sufficient water and power there in that area as well. And that is extremely important to making sure the power plant is kept running. And good news, it doesn't appear in the short term that it's okay for now. But in the long term, I don't know. This is an environmental disaster. I mean, there's so many humanitarian aid that needs to be done out of it. I mean, this picture we're seeing with the flooding in Kherson, the whole area is completely flooded. It's an environmental disaster. It's a humanitarian disaster. It is horrible. We don't know we don't know who's officially responsible for the attacks, of course, but nevertheless, it is a complete disaster that's gone on hand as well. And I suspect this is probably caused by Russia because this is again in effect to the counter attack as well. So yeah, it is a bad time for Ukraine. Hopefully, Ukraine are saying they can continue their counter-offensive operations. I don't know; it will probably slow it down a little bit more. But nevertheless, this is a really bad potential war crimes being committed there. The fact they're destroying dams and everything like that, flooding an area, flooding wildlife, crops, animals, and everything like that. It's a bad humanitarian disaster in Ukraine right now.
Now, I'm sure President Putin is certainly pointing his finger directly towards Ukraine for this, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is pointing the directional blame to President Putin in that respect. As well, but I have to say, according to this as well, there's been reports of 2 people that have died in shelling as well. It also says as well there is some figures that we've got through from Russia, from Ukraine. Oh, here we go. The Ukraine's Kherson region, Alexander Prulikin says that around 1,582 houses have been flooded on the right bank of the Dnipro River, and some 1,457 people have been evacuated overnight. There's probably more. That figure's probably grossly underestimated, obviously, because it's an ongoing event. We'll keep you updated with that because it's a horrible event, I have to say. I don't know why. I mean, for a start, it's a natural disaster scene, one of them. Humanitarian natural disaster scene, one of them flooded. So, yeah, not ideal in regards to that. Now, moving on now. Obviously, it's Wednesday. We're going to talk now about UK Parliament now. We're going to go back to our UK Parliament reviews. Obviously, Parliament is not on recess. It's back sitting now. Now, I want to talk to you about, we had Commons business today. Obviously, it was dominated by PMQs, deputy PMQs as it's called today, not PMQs because, of course, Rishi Sunak is in a meeting, I believe, with the US President Joe Biden in America, who had a fall the other week, unfortunately. Hope he's okay from that. But all I wanted to say was that it was deputy PMQs today, and the interesting COVID inquiry has been clashed between Oliver Dowden on Conservatives and Angela Rayner on Labour. Now, there was a poll out the other day I read up, this was on Maya Clusey's YouTube channel, saying that Labour are on course for a huge landslide election victory as well. This could be a huge moment, Zach, for the country, given at the moment, when you look at the debates in Parliament at the moment, especially PMQs, that many voters sort of are swinging in the opposite direction, really.
Yeah, obviously I should caveat as well that this is just one poll and it's an MRP poll, which is obviously very accurate most of the time and give a section of rural changes, constituency bound change and everything like that, not just like a national voice for everything. But yeah, I mean, today was PMQs without it being PMQs as well. Florentine have just leveled the game, by the way. Just want to make that mention as well. But yeah, it's been PMQs without PMQs because it's Rishi Sunak has been in America and he's in America at the moment. He's going to visit congressional leaders. President Biden is going to meet there tomorrow as well. That's going to be happening tomorrow. So it's been left today to Oliver Dowden and Angela Rayner, which was only the case a couple of weeks ago, if I remember rightly, because the PM was off on the G7, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just coincidence. It's two PMQs that have been missed in a row by Sunak. And obviously, because by convention, Starmer stands down and gets Angela Rayner in for PMQs as well. I didn't see PMQs today, unfortunately, due to the fact that I had exams today. But I see from the experts' opinion on PMQs that it was, I think, by the sound of it, Angela Rayner won. I shouldn't really guess too much into it from what the pundits really have saying about it as well. But yeah, I think by the sounds of it, it looks like it was a PMQs where Oliver Dowden was, was interested, was well defeated. One journalist basically described, from the Conservative, MPs told one journalist that there was no point of turning up to PMQs anymore. There was described as a bit of negative information function, and the fact that Dowden may have only turned up there, not showing, seceding, not showing Rishi Sunak are. Rayner talked about the COVID inquiry, hypocrisy, as well, everything like that. But yeah, it wasn't sound like the most exciting of PMQs really to be as well. And it just, I mean, being honest, deputy PMQs has not been the greatest of source of information. I mean, last time we had deputy PMQs, it was a bit of an embarrassment, really, to be quite honest, as well. And there was mostly about climate investment, COVID inquiry, Jobs Stop Oil back in as well. You may have seen the airport example as well. I think, it wasn't the best PMQs, to be honest, from what the journalists have been saying as well, and reading about it. So yeah, I mean, Parliament has been quite quiet as well. We should say as well. I mean, like today, over the last few days, there's not been much legislation been mostly passed. It's mainly been about general debates, motions, and everything like that as well. One thing I should mention as well that's been passed this week, and I think it's quite significant in the context as well, is that Margaret Ferry, you remember the former SNP MP, who's still an MP but sits as an independent now, who went on that COVID trip on a train, brought back COVID with her, broke lockdown rules and everything like that, and was lost the SNP whip and membership after that. To this week, they voted on a motion recommended by the Standards Committee to ban her for 28 days from the Commons, for 28 sitting days. That has got approved this week. Now, the significance of that is because she's banned for 28 days and more than 10 days from the parliamentary sittings, is that there is now going to be a recall petition. And if you know what recall petition is that basically if you sign 10% of that recall petition by any of her constituents, that leads to a by-election in the area. And although the recall petition probably will not be removed for a little while now, there is a high likelihood that recall petition will hit 10%, meaning there will be a by-election in her constituency of Hamilton West, I think it is, sort of the area where she presides, lives in the constituency of her. Now, that is an SNP held seat, obviously independent at the moment. But nevertheless, as well, it's SNP held and traditionally an SNP held area. But Labour look good at the moment for that seat. If it's to be believed that they could well get that seat in many ways. I think Labour will feel quite optimistic about taking their chances as well. And yeah, it's really important. I mean, for them, it would be really important to make a foothold in Scotland, given the fact it's probably one of their weakest areas in the country at the moment, Scotland, for Labour. I mean, to win an election, they need to be winning seats in Scotland. I mean, like that MRP poll, which showed 400 odd seats for Labour, is an example of how they can win in Scotland. Especially some of the Edinburgh constituencies as well, Glasgow potentially is really important to win those city seats as well, important to get Labour in the foothold for winning the majority of the next general election. But yeah, I mean, this could be a big opportunity for Labour. Like I said, if they once that by-election comes along as well, they could win it back. But they need to put some effort and campaign and resources into that area. But yeah, I mean, it's been a quiet week on the parliamentary front. I mean, like you said, it's just been mostly general debates, opposition debates, and everything like that as well. General debates tomorrow. Monday is a general debate as well. So again, it proves that the government is struggling at the moment to pass anything legislative-wise, and it's a big problem as well because otherwise Parliament ends up rising early as well. I mean, like Tuesday it rose a lot. I don't know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that as well, because they run out of business straight away to go through. So yeah, it doesn't look good on the Parliament when it does that. And yeah, it shows where the resources, legislative priority at the moment is that there's not much of it, and the government have got to think quickly about what priorities get through Parliament in many ways as well. But yeah, been quite quiet week in Parliament whilst Rishi Sunak has actually been away. I mean, we did get that statement from obviously Jeremy Quinn, the Paymaster General, about the government's position on the COVID-19 inquiry as well, which I just, to me, I think is hypocritical, quite frankly, as well, given the fact that Johnson has now handed over his documents and WhatsApp messages on his new phone to the COVID inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, legal position, Baroness, there's been a preliminary hearing this week from the COVID-19 inquiry. Baroness Hallett, the chair, said, so the government's position is that they hand over, they're trying to redact other people's resources, and they're saying they're still finalising the position on that, which seems a bit of waste of time. But apparently, from what I understand, that potential judicial rule could be heard as early as the 30th of June, which sounds a little bit while away, given the fact that module 1 for the COVID inquiry is supposed to start next week. Again, I don't think it's going to go that far, quite frankly, in terms of, this judicial rule. I think it's going to get thrown out quite quickly, to be asked me. And legal experts are saying the same as well. But yeah, so been a bit of a quiet week in Parliament. Sunak's been outside of Parliament, really, talking about him being Dover, this week's in America. And yeah, so that's life outside Parliament for him. He's pretty busy, but in Parliament, he seems to go a bit quiet, and there's not much going on at the moment.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting to see Rishi Sunak out of Parliament. Now, just a quick update on some of the business in the Commons. As I said, PMQ was today. We had 10-minute rule motion, road safety side comments. Mark Posey, Conservative Rugby, put a motion to the Commons today. I think that there is 15-minute city cyclists being apparently coming around, from what I understand. We had opposition day debate, mental health treatment. Keir Starmer was the one who called that as well. Then we had Keir Starmer and Jerome Lee Andy at Wigan. Opposition debate on the accountability of scrutiny of test work and a German contribution, small medium-sized enterprise and local economy and Great Yarmouth. That was Brandon Lewis. As well, tomorrow, is that not really much tomorrow. Business statements, Penny Mordaunt. We've got a German again. Again, not much on the Commons. We'll keep you updated on what comes on in UK Parliament. Now it's time we're going to talk showbiz now. And we're going to talk about Britain's Got Talent now. Oh my God. This is now the time of the show where I'm going to talk about, yes, if you watched Britain's Got Talent at the weekend, it was the final. Of course, Anton Depp presented a bunch of semi-finals last week. We had the final on Sunday, and yes, the winner of the show was not what we expected, wasn't it? A man wearing a high-vis jacket. Yes, a Norwegian male wearing a high-vis jacket, at one point blowing himself up in a balloon. You might know this guy called Viggo Venn, who won Britain's Got Talent on Sunday. Congratulations to him. Was he the right winner? I don't know. He certainly got the crowd moving around, didn't he? Amanda Holden was certainly wearing her high-vis to Heart Radio breakfast the other day, so it appears she'd had a bit too much to drink that night, I'm guessing, after the BGT after party there. Zach, what did you make of the Britain's Got Talent final this year?
I'm fascinated by the winner because Viggo Venn looks like this idiot on camera, just basically wearing a jacket half the time and then showing off to what Daft Punk's One More Time. But it appears from what the public votes have put him out as, he seems to be very popular, even hideously popular. He got, I think, around 40, about 30 of the vote, 40% of the vote, to win the Britain's Got Talent as well. And it's just, it was hilarious. I must admit, it was cringily hilarious. Like, how could, I mean, like, you think he'd run out of ideas, but what I liked about him particularly, and I thought he was completely stupid in many ways, what I really liked about him was the fact that he didn't just do the same old act every time. And yeah, he obviously kept the jacket, the high vis jacket part of him throughout in part of elements. But it felt like he tried to do something different all the time, like with the DJ thing, and obviously mimicking people's voices on the first semi-final. Then we got to the final where he turned himself into a balloon, and then tried to disappear all out of sight. And it looked like it went a bit all unplanned when we got to the performance on Saturday. I mean, I thought at first that he actually cocked up seriously with that balloon, because he wondered it burst. You remember the first balloon he used? It burst when he was rolling it down, and I thought that was I thought that was unintentional and not part of the act. And then there was another balloon that eventually came out after swearing on the air accidentally as well, I should point out, because he did swear. It sounded like it was like something had happened and that he's actually about to go screwy uppy. And I actually had to go away from the television for a second thinking, what the bloody hell just happened? And then the other balloon came out. And then I realised it was all part of the act. Like, wow, how did he manage to do this? It's just like, what have I just watched? But he managed to get himself into a balloon, poke his head outside the balloon. I mean, don't try that at home, whatever you try to do, as well. Oh my goodness. Oh my word. Sorry about that. I've just looked at trying to watch West Ham Leeds score again. But nevertheless, he managed to get himself in the balloon, poke his face out, then got Simon on stage and gave him a present, and it was a jacket. It was another high-vis jacket, and he'd have to do it again one more time. Oh my word. It was it was pretty stunning, I have to say, looking at that. As well, Simon's reaction was priceless. He looked like he was not really enjoying it. But yeah, the public voted him to be the winner. I must admit as well, I did hear some boos in the audience when they announced the winner as well. I must admit, it was a bit the way the audience reacted after a few minutes was sort of monotone and a bit lame, wasn't it? I mean, the audience didn't react very well. Maybe because they thought the other acts, such as the girl that was dancing, was better, and the autistic the magician, Gillian O'Connor, probably was better in that part. I really like Gillian O'Connor, I have to say as well. I thought he was incredibly stunning, as well. But I'm really surprised. I mean, I guess as well they could have won. But it looks like Vigo then caught the stupidity of the nation, and really enjoyed being stupid on the stage, and the public liked it too. So I guess from that point, he won, and he won convincingly as well. And I must admit, it was funny to watch. It really was a bit funny to watch, I must say as well. A bit wild, a bit peculiar, but really, really funny.
Oh, it was honestly, it was one of those acts. I watched the audition today. Wow, his performance today, and wow, it was interesting. But this was the moment when Vigo Venn from Norway ended up winning Britain's Got Talent, and this was the results announcement on the show. Have a listen to this.
Auditions, 5 unbelievable semi-finals and an amazing final. It all comes down to this.
Just 2 acts remain: Liliana Clifton and Vigo Venn. One of you is about to leave here with £250,000 and a spot on the bill at the Royal Variety Performance.
The winner of Britain's Got Talent 2023 is... Vigo Venn!
Let me just chat to our runner-up first. Liliana, our runner-up on Britain's Got Talent. How do you feel?
It's just so amazing because of all the support I've had.
Listen, you were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Let's hear it one more time for this year's runner-up, Liliana Clifton.
Well, would you look at that? Congratulations, Vigo Ven, you are the winner of Britain's Got Talent 2023.
I feel extremely visible right now. Thank you so much. What would you like to say? You clearly captured the heart of Britain. Loads of people have voted for you. What would you like to say?
Here we go. Now this is his act when it got when.
Thank you. Do you want to say it, Simon? Yeah. Big. One more time.
You can see the audience's reaction there to the winning performance of Vigo Ven of Norway. Yeah, wow, what a performance that was. That's all I can say on Britain's Got Talent there. Now, moving on to the sports news now. Yeah, quite a lot. Obviously, we're going to keep you updated with the Europa Conference League as well. Currently, at the moment, 85 minutes gone, still 1-1 between West Ham and Fiorentina at the moment. So we're wishing West Ham all the best for that. There has been an incident in that match, from what I understand as well, which we'll come on to in a minute, regarding a person that threw in cups, apparently. We're going to move on. We're going to cover the motorsport news. Obviously, last week we had the Indy 500. Joseph Newgarden won that. We're going to start off with, obviously, the IndyCar action, which took place at Detroit. Watching the race before I went on air, I can safely say Alex Palou taking another crucial win in his bid to win a second IndyCar title. But, Zach, I have to say, it was a pretty eventful race in Detroit, wasn't it?
I would say so, to that point as well. They're racing on a new track, by the way. I should point out as well. We should admit, and they're racing on a new track, and it's very narrow. It's very, a bit like trying to get onto the M25 in some ways, a bit congested between the walls and everything like that as well. As I put it, put it in that sort of terms as well. It's one of the strangest tracks I've seen in quite a while. In many ways, with what they did, as well. And it's strange to see how you sort of like made the track, because it's 9 corners and everything like that as well. And it's a very weird sort of way to do that sort as well. But like you said, Alex Palou managed to win that one as well. His second victory of the season, I should point out. Led 74 of the 100 laps. Won the race in pole position as well, because he got pole on the Saturday as well. So it was commencing drive. Not quite Max Verstappen-like driving, but nevertheless as well. It was a good drive from Palou. As well, Will Power as well did second position. A good drive from him. Good drive, actually. He was potentially contention for the win, but had a little collision with Scott Dixon on the final restart as well, trying to take the lead from Palou. Power went up on 2 wheels, and car went to anti-stall. He did recover actually fairly well after that incident to finish second place, and led 14 of the laps as well. Dixon managed to finish in 4th, right where he started. So actually, despite that incident, they did actually come out quite well, those two. Second and 4th in that one. Palou obviously, won a power second. Felix Rosenqvist third as well. Good recovery from Felix Rosenqvist after his accident last time out in Indianapolis as well. Good recovery as well. Scott Dixon fourth, Alex Rossi fifth. Carl Kurtwood was a good driver, sixth position. Scott McLaughlin seventh, Marcus Ericsson Arsenal eighth, Marcus Ericsson ninth, Newgarden 10th. As well, I believe there was a few crashes and bangs in that one.
Yes, there was. I can say
Callum Ilott, wasn't there?
Callum Ilott had one. Also, Benjamin Pedersen crashed into Graham Rahal during the race as well. Pato O'Ward had a very bad race. He had a tyre that wasn't on properly and then he hit the wall. Romain Grosjean hit the wall.
Yeah.
Stingray Robb didn't finish the race as well. And there was also Callum Ilott having a collision. I believe, actually, Carl Kurtwood very luckily finished the race.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few of those odd collisions, wasn't there? Like, as I mentioned, wasn't it Palou and Power having a few collisions in there as well. But I think as well, if I remember rightly, as well, Callum Ilott had a collision with Carl Kurtwood as well. And then as you said, you're like Pat O'Ward having a collision in many ways as well. Obviously, Grosjean's having no luck recently. I mean, Grosjean has an incident-filled season. He's had the performance and the pace in some of the races, and yet he's been crash after incident after incident. He's not had the luck so far, old Paul Romain Grosjean, hasn't he, in the season so far? I mean, he made the fast six on the Saturday, but then again he cocked up, also wrecking out as well. I mean, like, there's been so many missed opportunities, I think, for Romain Grosjean. He's been a fast performer all season long, but then he's also had plenty of wrecks as well, unbelievably, in that situation. So Grosjean has to stop making the mistakes that he's previously had in the past as well. It really needs to stop happening as well. But there you can see there's the standings as well. I mean, like Palou is well out in the lead as well. There's obviously all the ones that started. I mean, like Catherine Legg got 5 points just for starting the Indy 5, and Romain Grosjean's 11th in the standings as well. Could have been up further as well if he hasn't for those silly mistakes as well. But Palou's leading. I mean, he's well out in front, isn't he? He's like 50 points, Palou. And Ericsson behind as well. I mean, it's pretty decent stuff so far for Palou. He needs to hold that lead quite well. Obviously, a lot can happen in the second half of the season and that sort of thing as well. But Ericsson, Newgarden, still up in the front as well. I mean, look at it. Oh, yeah. And as well, West Ham have just scored, by the way, in an 89th minute. And they're all going crazy. I'll just update you on that as well. But yeah, next race is June the 18th. The Grand Prix of Road America. That's a quite ironic race, I have to say. I really enjoy watching Road America as well. That's June the 18th. It directly clashes with the Canadian Grand Prix, unfortunately. So I have to catch up on that one, unfortunately, as well. But nevertheless, next race is Road America. It's going to be a good race, I think, that one as well. Clashes with Canada, so I have to catch up with it. But yeah, looking forward to that one as well. That's 1 p.m. And on July the 18th, that's 1 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. UK time. Yeah.
That's the next race in Road America. NASCAR, unfortunately, don't go there. They go to, I think, a street circuit in Nashville. See if they've already been there or not. But that's fine on that one. Formula One action also took place at the weekend. We can confirm to you that it was, once again, Max Verstappen who won the race. I think that might be his third or fourth in a row, actually. He's been on a dominant mission again, has the Red Bull driver. Verstappen winning the Spanish Grand Prix, which was, I believe, around 6 or 7 of the championship, from what I understand. So, yeah, Formula One are really going through their season. We've also got a Formula E roundup as well, I believe, because there was a race at Formula E the weekend. Verstappen won, Lewis Hamilton second. Mercedes upgrades really working, actually. Second and third for Hamilton, and George Russell starting outside the top 10, I think 11th on the grid, finishing third. Sergio Perez finished fourth for Red Bull. That was despite actually starting outside the top 10 again. I think Russell might have been 12th, actually. Perez was 11th. Carlos Sainz, 5th for Ferrari. Lance Stroll, 6th for Aston Martin. Aston Martin weekend, not as good, but they still got the points. Fernando obviously had floor damage in qualifying in both cars. Fernando Alonso was 7th. Esteban Ocon, 8th place. Putting up robust defending on Fernando Alonso. questions on defence there. Zhou Guan, you getting 2 points for Alfa Romeo in ninth. Pierre Gasly for Alpine not having a very productive race, 10th place, and that was because he got penalised in qualifying for apparently blocking and impeding other drivers. And then obviously Charles Leclerc, 11th. A very disappointing weekend for the Ferrari driver after only qualifying P19 on the grid, would you believe it? Yuki Tsunoda, 12th. Oscar Piastri, first of the McLaren's lap down as Nick de Vries. Nico Hulkenberg, weekend went horribly wrong despite having a good qualifying. Albon was 16th. Lando Norris had contact on the first lap of Lewis Hamilton. The McLaren driver was 17th. Kevin Magnussen, 18th. And then Bottas and Sargent were the last two finishes. Zach, what do you make to the Spanish Grand Prix on the newly revised Circuit de Catalunya?
I think it was a bit more of a... Yeah, I think it was a better race, to be fair. Well, one thing I did see, despite forgetting the Max Verstappen dominance, is we saw a lot more overtaking, I have to say, than what we've previously seen before, I think, at the Spanish Grand Prix. Obviously, removal of the chicane at turn 14 and 15 meant that's only 14 corners now. So what was really important was that whether there'd be an effect on overtaking. And I think we did see that in the race as well. More overtakes, a little bit more actions and everything like that as well. And that was extremely important for for the race and the action. Again, Max Verstappen, though, in a league of his own, completely went off from start to finish as well. Dominated the race, the fastest, pretty much getting much. I think the fastest lap of the race as well. The pole position, I mean, he was all off and gone from the word go. Good result for Mercedes, though. Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, second and third. Really important results in that front as well. But yeah, very good result for Mercedes, given the fact they've been struggling behind and they've obviously brought this upgrade in this for this race as well. But nevertheless, as well, I think it's been good to get that upgrade in. And obviously, with the fact that Ferrari's been off the pace this weekend as well, especially Leclerc, who's miserable race, quite frankly, we get onto him as well. But I think it helped Mercedes' favour. Perez was fourth. Okay race from him, I think, from that. Carlos Sainz, fifth. Good race for Lance Stroll, sixth position. I think he'll be very happy with that one as well. Beating his teammate, Fernando Alonso, I should say, as well, who had a little bit of a bad qualifying, floor damage on the car. Didn't make much of a recovery as well in the race as well, I have to say, that front as well. So Alonso seventh from that front as well. And yeah, I mean, one of the ones I think had a poor race as well, I should point out Lando Norris, who started out really well on the top three, but then got caught up in incident on the first lap that pretty much ruined their race and everything like that as well. He finished it below there as well. Esteban Ocon 8th, Joe 9th as well. Gasly 10th, Leclerc 11th in many ways as well. Leclerc 11th, Tsunoda 12th, Piastri 13th, De Vries 14th, Hulkenberg 15th, Alex Albon 16th, Norris 17th, Magnussen 18th, Bottas 19th, Sargent as well in 20th position. I mean, all finished though. No safety cars, anything. Everyone finished, which was the main thing as well. But there's plenty on track overtaken. If you forget Verstappen or going up in the front, everything like that as well, they pretty much managed to keep a clean range as well. And I'm just getting ready, Charlie, because this could be a very crucial moment. I just want to keep an eye out here as well whilst I'm speaking as well. Actually, you go ahead and doing everything as well, but I'm just as well watching the television to see this Europa League game wrapped up as well. Big moment potentially on the way. And there might be drink also be made for me downstairs as well. I might need it. So
there has also been an incident in that match we can report as well, from what I understand.
Yeah, there was unfortunately a few idiot West Ham fans that threw a flare, hitting the Fiorentina players. So a bit of a shame really, because the West Ham fans have been good all weekend as well. But yeah, they're in the 96th minute. Keep me calm, guys, because this could be a big moment coming up, really, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be really interesting to watch.
That was all the action there from the Formula One. I'm just going to quickly get up the NASCAR action, obviously. Not NASCAR, for the Formula E action. NASCAR, obviously, that was won by Kyle Busch. That last race in Illinois there as well. Maxi Gunter, I believe, won the Formula E race in Jakarta So yes, we have the news there that Maxi Gunter won. Actually, was there 2 races in Jakarta?
Yeah, it was 2, Charlie. There was,
2 races. I think
there
from
was
what
2
I
of them,
read
I
up
think,
over.
as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think I only watched one of the races, from what I understand. I've just literally kept up to date with the highlights. Yeah, I think one of the races, there was a win for Pascal Wehrlein, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I think that was one race I watched. But in the second race, I believe Maxi Gunter took the honours. We do have the Jakarta race review here. So we've got that up now. Do apologise for some technical difficulties that we've had there. There was 2
right.
thinking there was only, I thought only one race for a second. But yes, in the race review, obviously Maxi Gunter won the most recent one at Jakarta. We can confirm that to you. There was actually 2 races, not the one. So in the updated race, it was round 11. Maxi Gunter won ahead of Jake Dennis, who scored fastest lap, crucial for his championship hopes. Mitch Evans third, and look at this, Nissan 4th and 5th in race 2. That's like their best result of the season. Norman Nato threw it away, I believe, in Cape Town, and he got that result. Pascal Wehrlein 6th, but Paul Schaff, Da Costa was 7th, Mortara was 8th, Van Dorn 9th, Buemi was 10th in that one. And in the round race 10, yes, it was Pascal Wehrlein that won that one, because I did watch the highlights, definitely of that. Jake Dennis was third. Now, Maxi Gunter had a very strong weekend, 3rd and a 1st in the 2 races. Very good. Stoffel Van Dorn 5th. Johnny Verne 6th. Mortara 7th. Nick Cassidy finished 7th in that. He had a bit of an off weekend, actually, in Jakarta. Obviously, race 2, he didn't do even that well at all. I think he had a collision with another driver. Friends, Hughes. Then there was other drivers. Mitch Evans didn't finish the race. There was plenty of contact in race 2 for several. So, what did you take away from the Formula E action in Jakarta last week?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good weekend as well, Charlie. I'm just going to give you some breaking news whilst we're here, Charlie. West Ham have just won the Europa Conference League with a 2-1 victory. And I thought I'd just mention it whilst I'm here, because that's been history for West Ham, who have now qualified for the Europa League with this victory. It's their first European set of glory in many years as well. I just thought I'd bring you that whilst I'm speaking
Well
to
done,
you.
West Ham. Congratulations.
Going back to the E-Prix, good result for Pascal Wehrlein this weekend as well. I must admit as well, it's been one of those weekends, I have to say as well, but it was a little bit less eventful for Formula E standards, I must say as well. It's pretty clean in many ways. Yeah, I mean, Pascal Wehrlein continuing his, really critical season by winning on the last race as well. 25-point, a big victory for him as well. I think was that the first race result, or that was the second? I think that
was the first race result. Wehrlein won that one.
Race. So Wehrlein won the first race ahead of Dennis. Very crucial as well. And then it was Gunter as well in 3rd, and Stoffel Van Dorn 4th. That was a fairly clean race, by the way, the first race by Formula E standards. I missed the second race, unfortunately. As well, but this is the second race as well. Maxime Gunter, I think, was performing the clean sweep or everything like that as well. 28 points as well. 28 points, pole position, fastest lap as well. Brilliant result for Gunter. I mean, dominant drive. Jake Dennis, though, crucially in 2nd position. That was obviously helping him in the standings and everything like that as well. Mitch Evans 3rd, Sancho Ferruches in 4th. Norman Mato in 5th, Pascal Wehrlein in obviously in 6th position as well. That's obviously affecting the championship in many ways. So Felix Costa at 7th, Mortara 8th, Van Dorn 9th, and Buemi in 10th. And Dan Ticktum, who ran a good race and then ran out of battery on the last lap, who finished 11th, and we came up with quite some really incredibly frustrating team radio messages as well, I should say, towards the end of as well. Very frustrated with the team, very frustrated, a very aggressive response. But nevertheless as well, I feel for him, but I also feel like he needs to calm down a little bit on the radio. There was DNFs for Sam Bird, for Sergio Sessi-Camera. I don't think DNFs are actually for Sam Bird and Sessi-Camera now. I don't know whether there's incidents beforehand or not before the race, but they were DNSs. DNF was David Beckman and Jake Hughes as well, in many ways. So obviously really Very. I have to say, the Formula E stands. I think was less eventful than what I've seen, but very important in the
Didn't the
context of
two
championship.
Jaguars collide?
Yeah, something like that as well.
Yeah, I remember race one. I think
I
that was
remember
it.
not seeing the second race, unfortunately, but it was. Yeah, I saw the first race. I sadly didn't see the second, but yeah, I think there was something like that in the middle of that race as well, which obviously not great as well in terms of inter-team rivals and everything like that as well. Let me tell you the standings overall, Charlie, in the driver standings. Pascal Wehrlein leading 134 to 133 from Jake Dennis, and then Cassidy in third. This championship is close, and we only got a couple of races to go in the season actually now. In 16 days' time, we're going to Portland for round 12, and then we're at the last 3 tracks now. We're at Portland, then off to double header in Rome and double header in London. So there's only 3 weekends left. Anything can happen in these last 3 weekends. Rome's going to be a very fascinating race as well. Portland's going to be a fascinating race. And it's going to end the season out in July as well for the British round. Honestly, anything can happen in those couple of races as well. But nevertheless, it really is going to go down to the wire, I think, as well. Double headers the last 2 races, and Portland coming up ahead as well. And on a new circuit, I should say, as well. I think it's a new circuit for America as well in Portland. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in those last couple of races.
That's all the latest news from Formula E, and certainly be very, very interesting to see what gets on in that series. Now, moving on to Conversation Street now, a lot of people have been... I'm going to do this again here, guys, because I didn't go a bit in depth last time about talking about this artist. So if you watched my show back in January, I spoke about Craig David. Tonight, I'm going to go a bit more in depth about it because I feel like we haven't uncovered the full meaning of Craig David. Now, obviously, if you don't know Craig David, he's a British singer-songwriter who has had fame with being with the Artful Dodger. Rewind, obviously, from his first album, Born to Do It, which was a #1 album featuring the song Fill Me In 7 Days and also Walking Away. That was an album that was very well known for everyone, and obviously many people would have known David very, very well. But the albums we forgot to mention last time, he done an album where he had a comeback. Now, obviously, Slicker and Average came out featuring all of the songs, including songs such as What's Your Flavour and also The Story That Goes, featuring the songs This Is My Girl and also Hot Stuff Let's Dance. Now, the albums we forgot to cover last time, there was one album in particular that really stands out. It's called Following My Intuition. Now, when David came back into music, he teamed up with multiple artists. It included, obviously, as we said last time, When the Bassline Drops, which was a big hit with, obviously, Big Nasty. But Ain't Giving Up also featured on the album. And also, as well, See You Again. It was another cover. But one of the songs in particular that really took cover on was the song called 16. Which, if you don't know 16, it's a song that covers Fill Me In with a Where Are You Now remix. Now, sampling songs is very, very difficult to do. And Craig done that really well. And that is why that album, in my opinion, probably is one of the best albums he done. And the album has a big meaning. Because obviously when he was behind the scenes and there was a lot of stuff, he wasn't reading like music and that. He created this album especially to make people feel good about themselves, to share the positive energy that he was back on the scene. Now, an album that he has released recently is 22, which has featured so many songs, and this is what we're mainly going to cover tonight, the album 22. It featured, obviously, big hits, including Teardrops, which if you don't know Teardrops, that is a song on his album. The studio album I'm going to preview for you guys is here. We're going to get Zach's take on it in a minute, on the new albums that Craig's dropped, and also the history behind him as well. Best of Me, Who You Are with MNEK, big hit there. Who You Are Part 2, DNA Part 2 with Galantis, My Heart's Been Waiting For You, Obvious, Gangster Love as well. And of course, a song recently called Better Days, I Came By Train, which was part of the Trainline project. It was also recorded to tackle, I believe, help climate change or something like that. Zach, what do you make to Craig David's sort of later work in music, particularly, say, early in his career beyond Following My Intuition?
Yeah, I mean, Craig David, when he moved to obviously the newer Craig David these days, is rather kind of different from the old Craig David, because the old Craig David used to focus on the rhythm and blues, sort of the chill music and everything like that as well. But now he's gone for the very trendy pop style sort of pop hit anthems and everything like that as well. And it's definitely like DNA as well, which is pretty much anyone else could make these days, but it's still obviously still in Craig David fashion and everything like that as well. Who you are, what can you say? I think it's obviously, it's like I said, it's more of the traditional hitting sort of sort of pop style hits that you sort of regularly hear every day as well. And yeah, I mean, it's very on trend for what happens in music these days, but it's still a good song, I should say as well. I mean, like I've heard bits of the album, like Gets Like That's really good and everything like that. Unconditional, we've heard a little bit of that. I think it's pretty good, and meant to be and everything like that. And obviously, I guess 22 is the amount of times he's been in the music industry, I think, as well. By my sort of calculations, that's probably why I called it 22, because this is like 22 years in the music industry. Might as well name it like that as well. I mean, Adele used to name it all her albums like 21, 25 when she got to her age and everything like that. You might as well this one that's in the music industry and everything like that as well. But yeah, I think it's just the works of Craig David that's modernized and everything like that, got up to current trends, and still keeping a bit of his signature sound, like the garage sound and everything like that as well. Is still prominent in ways. The dancing sort of element is there as well, and it's still good music. Whatever you think about it, whether it's sound a bit trendy and a little bit less Craig David before, I think it's still very good and demonstrates lots of his talents as well. I mean, yeah, I think it's a good album. I like listening to it.
I think the one thing I was going to ask, Zach, obviously you look at his old music, like as I mentioned at the start, like obviously Rewind and Fill Me In and stuff. I listen to them songs a lot, okay, and I think to myself, right, this is an original garage hit that we've seen. And obviously 16, the way he able to remix that. The thing is, you take a look at that song and the way he sampled it, it sort of feels like that kind of the new and the old is in the same building, like you can take a new song, a new sample, say a new Justin Bieber song and sample it with an original material he recorded in 2000. Many artists struggle with that, and Craig, for me, defies what an artist can do with that, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You see this quite often with modern day songs now these days. They get sampled, what we call sampled. So not just a copy and paste, but they clip a little bits of like previous music. They'll credit the artist and everything like that, as obviously as well in their like little descriptions of like that, because obviously that's got to be included. But they credit it. They use a little bit of sound that previously before and sort of like a beat and everything like that, and either make a copy of that into their own version or make a different sort of version out of it as well. So we see that's why you see a lot of reinvention of these old classics these days as well, which is what you typically see. And although does that prove that the question is whether that proves that music artists have run out of ideas? No, not necessarily. I mean, there's still a lot of original tunes out there. People still use a lot of original writing and everything to like that now. But then I guess they use the original, like old samples and everything as well, just to sort of bring back a memory and everything like that as well from the history of music. And you see this quite a lot. They get remade and they become big tunes and everything like that as well. So the remake becomes bigger than the the actual original tune as well. You see like Whitney Houston, for example. Kygo remade that tune and that became number one, if I remember quite rightly as well. But the remake did it. It was bigger than the original. Higher Love. No one sort of less people remember the original now, and they go on to was it Higher Love? Oh yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
Was it Tina? Yeah. No, it was Whitney Houston on that one. And then like What's Love Got to Do? It wasn't as big, I should point out as well. The remake as the original, but still, you see a lot of artists redo, make remixes, samples, and everything like that. It's a very common trend, and it's still going to continue, I think, for a while. But obviously, doesn't mean that you can't do your original music alongside it as well. It's if you write a good song, you make a good production, and everything like that, make it memorable for all the right reasons. It still comes a big hit these days. Have we seen that before? So, but we see samples as a way to means to do it, to enjoy. As a way to sort of use the past and remake tunes to become bigger hits these days.
What did you make to the latest hit, Better Days, that he released? Because obviously that's a very visually important song, and he says in the song that it's about like making the small change to have such a big impact. Do you think Better Days, A Came by Train, will encourage more people to like maybe take train travel in the future?
Yeah, there's obviously an environmental message in there as well. I mean, like, it's obviously going by train is more environmental, say driving your car off is something like that, or going and everything like that, or taking the plane. In that case, it's an example as well. Like taking a cycling and everything like that as well. But it's always little different things that can like save humanity and save the planet and everything. So that's what Craig David tries to get out of this song. And there's some nice little visuals in the sort of music video he's done as well. There's some really like animated videos as well. It campaign out to have try and make more informed, sustainable decisions by an easy way of making positive change. And obviously, it's funny we're doing the same thing, like everything you're doing the same method and everything like that as well. And then you think of all the different methods and everything like that as well. The chance to make it right. I want to make the sort of like you're saying that I don't want to lose humanity and everything like that. Make different changes. And it's a crucial, important message. It may not seem obvious at first, but it seems, when you listen to the song, you really get the understanding, the messaging, and the lyrical reaction to it, and all that sort of thing as well. It's really important.
I'm just going to play for you a little sample of the song whilst we're on the show, guys, to see exactly what we mean by what Craig covers in this song. This is a little sample of Better Days, I Came by Train. This is the latest song he's currently released at the moment.
I don't want to lose this chance to make it alright. We all want those better days, better days, better days. Hoping for those better days, better days, better days. The time is now for better days, better days, better days. It's just the little things we know can make a beautiful change. That's why I'm happy that I came by train.
There we go. Thank you, Craig. That was, of course, the cover of Better Days, I Came by Train. It's from the Trainline YouTube channel, as well as that Craig David also released a song on his YouTube channel. You can go and view that right now as well. Now, also, speaking of that, before we do the papers, as we've been talking about the planet and about relationships as well on that song, if you're in for warm weather this weekend, you might know why I'm wearing a shirt tonight on my show. Yes, it's a bit cooler tonight. But this weekend, we'll be ripping these things off probably, because it is going to be getting warm again. Very warm conditions expected this weekend in the UK. Low pressure, of course, might be coming. But from what we've heard on the forecast this weekend, temperatures could get up to the mid-20s, possibly up to 30 degrees Celsius in parts of London on Saturday. Zach, what do you make to this latest news about the heat wave potentially coming?
Yeah, I guess it's coming to that time of year season again where the warm weather is coming along and we're going to get a load of heat waves. It's not surprising, quite frankly. I mean, we've had a little bit of warm weather recently, and we've sort of been waiting to see whether there's going to be that big hot moment. And it looks like this weekend is going to be the first big hot moment of the season. Temperatures coming up to 30 degrees Celsius. I expect you'll be taking that jacket off, no doubt about it, when you come to it as well. Otherwise I'll be boiling in there, I tell you about that. But yeah, I mean, 30 degrees. Whew, certainly. I mean, Unlike some people, I will be keeping my top on in the house because I don't like them not having a top on. But yeah, it's going to feel warm. It's going to feel sweaty. I think there's going to be a few windows open, everything like that. In some areas like London's going to get to 30 degrees as well. There's been a yellow heat warning been set out by the Met Office and the UK Health Security Agency, and it's the first heat alert of the season. I should point out as well, telling people to be warned of the heat dangers and everything like that as well. And yeah, it's going to feel quite warm. And I don't think it's going to be the only weekend it's going to feel quite warm this weekend as well. We've seen in Spain where it's 2 degrees warmer over there than what the previous season is. It's going to feel hot again. The temperature's getting hotter as well. Hopefully, we don't see the return of wildfires like we did last season in some areas as well. That devastated some of the areas as well. But yeah, I'm not a fan of overly hot weekends, but because I like it a little bit cold. I like it when it's like warm but not hot, and everything like that. But this weekend it should be sunny. Everyone's going to go out to the beaches probably, and just take care of yourself when you're out there as well. It's going to be warm. Get plenty of sun cream on as well. Don't start any bonfires, whatever the hell you do in very foresty areas or whatever like that as well, because you're going to start wildfires and everything like that as well. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very hot weekend. Keep safe out there. Enjoy the weather mostly, but just take precautions and think about others as well that may be overwhelmed by the warm weather, such as you animals and the old people as well. Please take care of them. But anyway, looking forward to a hot and sunny weekend ahead as well.
Yeah, probably after this weekend, this will be coming off. I'm pretty sure for the next round of shows we do throughout the summer, I'll be just normally in a t-shirt. But yeah, all I can say is the weather I'm just checking the forecast. It is 20. Does say on BBC it's going up to about 26 on Monday. Obviously, there is a threat of thunderstorms around as well. But obviously, more inland, we could look at 30 degrees possibly. Obviously, these figures could be very underestimated. Sometimes it gets even warmer than what they predict. And then we're like, okay, it's even hotter. But please, obviously, guys, enjoy the weather whilst obviously the weekend. Schools are off at the weekend. So I'm sure many people will be making the most of the sunshine, maybe going down to the beach, theme parks, everything else. And it also is covered as well in the papers, which is the paper reviews are right now on Press Preview. I just want to say, if you've got a newspaper review planned, I believe one of the newspapers has actually got that heat warning on it. That is the Metro that has gone with that 30-degree heat. But it also goes, of course, with Prince Harry's car tracker bombshell. Prince Harry's been on the news a lot recently. He's been in court, from what I understand. The Duke claims he found the device on his ex-girlfriend's vehicle as well. Also, pressure on Johnson after Friends checkers stays during COVID curves. God, more of this Boris Johnson Partygate scandal is back on again as well. Of course, we've also got a picture there of the skateboarder in, I believe, taking his dog for a walk yesterday. It looks like somewhere maybe like Brighton where temperatures are going to be rising. Financial Times goes, US Treasury state borrowing spree set to increase strain on £1 million bank system. This news, of course, comes as Mike Pence has declared he's running for president. He released a campaign video the other day. I'm sure Mike Pence has got that on his mind right now about the US Treasury there. Spending spree. I'm sure that will be a priority that one of the Republican candidates will be covering during their campaigns for nominations. Zach, what do you make of the current papers that's been released so far?
Yeah, let's go through a couple of them actually that's come out at the moment. Only 4 of them I see at the moment have come out according to this. So let's just go through what we can do at the moment. Start with the eye. Energy firms face custom payout over secret fees. Now, this is the fact that small businesses across the UK to launch legal action against energy companies over high-cost deals that added thousands of pounds to annual bills through undeclared commission fees. Energy firms now facing huge payouts after brokers exploited a loophole that wrote build tariff. Fresh pressure and fuel giants to help with cost of living crisis. New reports reveal the UK on the track to have the worst inflation of any leading country, with an average of 6.9% as well. That's a huge amount, you have to say, on that front as well. Nevertheless, so yeah, it looks like the energy firms are exploiting the system again, sadly. and unbelievably so. I'll come to the Telegraph page in a moment because I just seen that just come out as well, from what I've seen, as well. But yeah, nevertheless, what is wrong with energy firms over the last few years? I do not know. I mean, first of all, you have the situation where where they make thousands of pounds of profits off the people whilst we're all suffering, and then just because they don't have enough money to profit off of, you then get them looking over looking over other compensation commission fees and loopholes and all that sort of thing, because they've been windfall tax and all that sort of stuff, to then start ripping off customers as well, over commission fees as well. It's incredible how naive they are on this as well. It's just stunning and stupid that they keep doing this as well. They often have had to issue warnings as well. Businesses have been ripped off, consumers have been ripped off, and it seems like they've just not learned their lesson, Charlie, about what they're doing to customers or anything like that. It's really is unbelievable, anything like that, what they continue to do. It's just a sad bit of action of what they do as well. Right, let's move on to the Telegraph, because that's just come out as well. Sunak tell Biden UK can lead on AI. Now, obviously, as he said this week, that Rishi Sunak is in America this week to talk to Joe Biden and other leaders in the US as well. They're going to lead on AI as well. They're leading the AI because Rishi Sunak has decided this is a firm priority of this week. Now, obviously, AI is being used to create lots of new ideas and interesting technology, and obviously many things as well that can create innovation, but it can also lead to some very, very serious side effects and consequences as well. There was a report saying that AI could lead to the erasure of the human race within 3 years, although I think that's been exaggerated, I think, over a little bit as well. But they want to, the Prime Minister is going to want to agree with Biden to make London a centre of international regulation on AI and controlling AI and making sure that AI is safe for everyone to use. And the fact that there should be limits and regulations to make it obviously no one's been affected by this as well. But nevertheless, as well, I think this is one of the main reasons that Sunak has found that AI can be a threat and needs to find ways to be controlled as well. So this is a really important area I think we're going to look out for on the AI front as well. So I think it's one to look out for in that front, and that's just where President Biden is going to come involved and everything like that as well. But there's also going to talk about Ukraine and many other areas of interest that the UK and US hold share commonly for as well. So that's going to be happening this week. Tomorrow, I believe in the US, that'll be a key area for discussion for Biden as well. Let's move over to The Guardian. Pressure on Johnson after Fred's Chequers staging COVID curve. Friend helped then PM partner plan win in May 2021. And this is the fact went a little bit quiet on the the sort of the job Boris Johnson front regarding to what happened at Chequers and everything like that. And it looks like it's come back in the game by The Guardian. The fact that they've got information that one of the friends of Boris Johnson's helped organise a wedding at Chequers in May 2021 when there was code limitations as well over there at the time. Dixie Monroe, a corporate events organisation, stated that then the Prime Minister's Grace Affairs County Mansion on 7th May 2021 when indoor gatherings between different households were banned except for when reasonably necessary for reasons such as work or childcare and all that sort of things as well. And she was there apparently to hold talks on a wedding. I mean, yeah, it's not good look if it's true. I don't think that's the worst crime that's been committed, but still, it looks like looks quite bad anyway. Regardless, I mean, it's not good look to be holding people around when doing COVID regulations. I mean, we've heard this all from Boris Johnson, so I just find it so incredibly pathetic.
Maybe I'm going to come in here. This is a question for all the listeners if you're watching the Tonight Show podcast on YouTube here. The question we have is, his constituency, I believe was it South Runslipp or somewhere?
Yeah.
The question is this potentially, whether they call it a witch hunt or not, do you think this could potentially finish his career and maybe trigger a by-election?
It could possibly, depending on what the privilege committee come up with, and they're still going to have to wait, depending on what the police do about these new reported violations of lockdown rules and all that sort of thing as well. They obviously it's been handed over to police, but they've not decided whether to investigate it. We don't know whether they are investigating it or not. We haven't heard from the privilege committee, which may give a hint as to where this is going potentially as well, whether this is actually being investigated. I think it probably is, but we don't know about it. Which is why the privilege committee is holding off for now. But yeah, I mean, if the privilege committee recommend anything more than the 10-day suspension, then it's going to go. I think it's going to go by-election. We're going to get recall petitions, by-elections, and possibly a Josh Johnson losing his seat from the Archbishop himself, Ruslip, as well potentially in the by-election, because I think Labour will push so hard in that seat to get him out and use his character to attack him, everything like that as well. That it could finish the Prime Minister's career. Maybe we could be stronger than he could be, and he may even hold his seat. But I would be surprised in the political environment as well if he does hold that seat, because I can't see him doing that sort of holding that seat in that sort of environment as well. But yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. I think still a long way to go on this as well. Moving on, we got 2 more papers I think to deal with at the moment. Harry car tracker bombshell. Duke claimed he found device in its girlfriend's vehicle. Now, one of the big royal stories this week is that Prince Harry has been in court. He's been a witness against the Mirror News Group papers as well in a potential phone hacking case as well. He's been given evidence yesterday and today. As well, he gave evidence today that he found a device on his ex-girlfriend's vehicle, which could have led to potential hacking and information gathering, obviously, as well. This is obviously a very serious case, as well. I should point out the fact that there could be potential phone hacking revolutions on this one as well. The Duke, obviously, Harry's claiming that his court case at the moment. Obviously, the cross-examination is going on at the moment between the Mirror Group, Prince Harry's law and all that sort of thing as well. But Harry's been direct evidence there, been caught yesterday and today as well, and giving evidence and seeing how telling about his story and how it's effective in about that as well. Obviously, the Daily Mirror have obviously been bringing their lawyers in as well. They're bringing a witness in tomorrow. I think they used to bring their royal correspondent, I believe, as well. I think it's Jane Lewis or something like that, to give evidence and to be cross-examined as well by the Prince Harry's lawyers as well. So a long way to go on that as well. I think it's been on this side of things. I think, for Harry's side of things, I think opinion's been built in already. I think, into what people think of him directly and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, some of it will be on against him mostly, I think, as well. But who knows? He may actually win this case. Who knows? I mean, some argue, I think at the moment his testimony has been okay so far. Whether it's been enough to make the Mirror Group liable in some areas, who knows? And finally, the Financial Times, Trudeau's Treasury, $1 trillion borrowing spree set to increase strain on bank system, building insurgency after debt deal, yields rise in anticipation, pressure on deposit likely. This is the fact that obviously there's been a debt deal agreed between President Biden, Kevin McCarthy, and the Republicans recently. Obviously, that's now been signed into law. Now the Treasury is going to borrow $1 trillion, which is a huge amount as well. Yields are rising, pressure on deposits are likely as well. Anyone who could put deposits is going to have to face huge strain as well. I mean, yeah, it just shows that there's a sort of it's volatile system at the moment, still the economic system in America, given what the fact that debt ceiling negotiations obviously destabilized, I think, part of the economy in many parts as well. So yeah, I mean, it's still. I think the US is lucky to avoid a default in many ways as well. I think, and I think it's good that they've avoided that. But right now, I mean, it's still a volatile system as well. But yeah, lots to go on that one, and that is the papers for the 8th of June tomorrow.
There's plenty of news for the newspapers there. Press preview certainly been the headline attraction on that one there. And that is it for the Tonight Show podcast for the 7th of June. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll be back again next week. We'll be reviewing, me and Zach will be reviewing more of the biggest news that comes around. Take care, everyone, and good night.